Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest Binary Zoomcast series, Utility Cloud Guide, where we highlight in which utilities are navigating from traditional operations to all things technology. I'm your host, Nilesh, along with Anthony. Our guest today on the show is Steve Richmond. Steve is a CEO and founder of Projetech, a gold IBM business partner that offers IBM Maximo, a global standard in software for enterprise asset management and maintenance, and is currently number one provider of Maximo as a service in the world. He is also an official Forbes Technology Council member, a published author, and an experienced speaker that has been recognized as a Tivoli award-winning IBM business partner. Today, with Steve, we are going to discuss in detail about how water utilities can adopt cloud-based platform. Welcome to our show, Steve.
Thank you, Nilesh. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
So, Anthony, you want to take the first question?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. You know, as someone who's been in the utility space for a while, before there was the cloud, there was computerized management, maintenance systems, and so on. I've been impressed by your background and what you do in that space. I'd like to hear a little bit about your thoughts on the cloud trends in utilities and how important you believe they are. However, if you could start a little bit with how did you get into the space? What motivated you? I'm always interested in hearing people's stories.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that. Thank you. Actually, I grew up in the mechanical contracting business. So first 10 years of my career were around commercial, industrial, HVAC, ventilation, power plants, boilers. Became fascinated by the fact that we had so many assets to manage and maintain and so little automation to do it. Of course, I'm talking about 1980. And we used whiteboards for scheduling and index cards for trying to figure out where the filters needed to go. And if you had a remote workforce, you dial them on a pager and hope they call you back. So there were a lot of challenges to doing business in that day and age that have been overcome with the onset of technology and computerization. Absolutely. And I think I forgot the second part of your question. Sorry.
No, you certainly, you need the context before. So yeah, there was, this evolution. And today we're talking about using the cloud, bringing that into the utilities. How important do you see that as the wave of the future and try to help to expand further what was been historically a very difficult thing to do?
Yeah, really, I see the cloud as just another step along the way of a long journey. And the journey really has always been driven by communication capabilities. When, ARPANET first came along, we were using modems and dialing up on copper wire lines. And as that connectivity has improved, so have the tools that we can use along with it: computerized maintenance management systems, local area networks, wide area networks. Now there's fiber to most major metropolitan areas. So speed, reduced latency, and better availability are driving a lot of the improvements that we see today. And certainly cloud technology is a big part of that, although I think we're getting towards the long tail on cloud. It's been around long enough. I think some of the newer technologies are going to push us even further with hybrid type installations and the ability to connect remotely to assets or sensors wherever they might be, and this concept of edge computing versus home computing and how all that works together in a hybrid model, I think is very exciting.
Excellent, thank you. I guess Nilesh, you'll take the next question.
Absolutely, and that makes a lot of sense, Steve. So in terms of what are the opportunities for utilities from the cloud perspective, Steve? What are the opportunities do you see?
Well, I think that the opportunities are numerous, and in my experience, there's always the latent, unexpected benefit of embracing technology. But from a bare bones perspective, certainly having better communications with your workforce, better visibility into the condition of your assets, better abilities to locate assets that might be remotely deployed, and this whole concept of 5G and remote assets being able to connect back to the mothership give us a lot faster decision times and a lot more informed decision times. So I think you have better workforce collaboration, you have better asset information, and I think the benefits can be many. We have seen some evolution over the last 20 years and just the physical location of information. In the event of a natural disaster, I'm in Florida currently, but hurricanes are top of the mind down here in the summertime, but it could be anything. It could be an earthquake, it could be a fire, which, we've seen out in the West Coast. Having your information systems, disparately positioned from your assets is a huge advantage in the event of something unfortunate. When you need to try to bring your systems back up and you need to provide services to your customers and you need to do triage on what the condition of your assets are, if your data center is sitting right smack in the middle of that natural disaster, you're hamstrung from the get-go. So cloud computing makes it easy for you to put your asset information in Dallas, Texas, if you're in Florida or wherever. There are data centers all over the globe, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think remote capability, remote monitoring is much more easier using the cloud technology. Absolutely, Steve.
So that was some great insight, Steve. Years ago, I spent a lot of time in the water treatment technology space myself, and what our clients' demands were always information for their asset management system, typically was Massimo. The other thing, what I found at the time, normal, but today strange, was that it was typically the larger utilities who had these capabilities. The small utilities were basically running blind. So today, what steps would you advise for the small and mid-sized utilities so they can take advantage and fully leverage and adopt the cloud? And why do you think that's important?
Well, I think cloud adoption is a must. It's like any other technological change. You don't want to get too far behind the curve. Most people understand the concept of, software release platforms, and when versions of software changes, getting more than one or two versions back on software can be uncomfortable, but unsafe. It's very hard to patch and secure older product, but the advantage of leveraging cloud certainly solves a lot of that.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought. Having been part of a large global environmental services firm, we faced and we struggled that as well. So the adaptation to the cloud was painful for a large organization, but absolutely well worth it. So with that, I'll pass it back to Nilesh for another question.
Sure. If I might add one more thing there, Anthony, on that topic, I think the smaller utilities have advantages today that they may not have had 5 or 10 years ago. The cost of these technologies are dropping precipitously. So what would have looked like a tremendous outlay of capital just a few years ago can be done rather affordably. And you don't have to do it all at once either. Sometimes companies and organizations look at a shift, let's say to the cloud as an all or none proposition, and you really don't have to. I think you pick the systems that are easily moved, the systems that have bandwidth out in the community, whether it's a CRM system or an asset management system, even bookkeeping, whatever. Find the systems that are proliferate and are well thought of, and move systems as you go. The big bang approach to moving everybody at one time can be intimidating, and I think it slows you down too. 35 years ago, Tom Peters said, ready, aim, fire, or ready, fire, aim. And I think sometimes it's better just to pull a couple of triggers and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally with you there. Absolutely. It's and it also can help, sometimes there are no processes in place. You can help develop process. You could change culture of using the systems more, and you do that in a nice stepwise fashion, and people embrace it versus locking your whole company down, basically in a stalemate. So great. Nilesh, what do you have?
Yeah, so what are the key risks you foresee from the utility point of view when they adopt the clouds? What they should watch out for, Steve?
I think you have to be careful about the transition and who's in charge. Oftentimes moving applications to the cloud is a business unit decision, right? Some group inside of an organization says, I want to take my processes and I want to automate them. I want to use a cloud product. When business units make those decisions, they have got to be in lockstep with IT. IT is a necessary in every company, and actually what's going on inside of information technology today is job responsibilities are shifting. They're not really going away, but IT needs to help with the adoption of cloud. There's a lot of things that go into cloud adoption, including connectivity, negotiations with telecom communicators with regard to bandwidth and latency. Service level agreements are certainly very important. What's the guarantee of uptime of this connection, and what's the guarantee of latency of this connection? And then you get into issues of delivery time of the application itself, and those service level agreements are very important to be negotiated and managed. And security has got to be paramount in anything that you're trying to do today. You can find the lesser products and you can start smaller, but if you've got any sensitive information at all, I just don't think you can afford to go with the, I'll say the mom and pop. I need a mature system that can provide you with certifications. Cloud certifications are available from ISO, and security certifications are available from ISO. So all those things are very important.
Absolutely. I think that's well said, Steve. I think this will tremendously help the small and medium-sized utilities when they want to evaluate, the cloud transition and what steps as well as the risk they need to watch out for. We really thank you, Steve, for your time. This is amazing. I think the insights you have brought will really help the industry as a whole, utility industry as a whole. We both thank you very much for your time and appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to speak.
Steve, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your insights, and we look forward to continuing our conversation.
Look forward to the next time as well, gentlemen. Thank you. Have a great day.